Have you ever stumbled upon a story so strange, so unsettling, that it burrows into your mind and refuses to leave? Today, we're diving into one of those tales, a fragment of a forbidden text from ancient Persia that speaks of something truly bizarre. The crawling sun. Most ancient cultures worshipped the sun. It was a life giver, a source of warmth and light, a celestial god hanging high in the sky. But this text, it tells a different story. It describes a sun, not in the heavens, but here, on earth. A sun that fell from the sky, not in a fiery cataclysm, but with an unnerving silence. It didn't burn, it didn't scorch the land or boil the rivers, instead it moved. It crawled across the ground like some monstrous, incandescent creature. Imagine seeing that. A sphere of pure, silent light, dragging itself across the plains, the deserts, the hills of ancient Persia. The text is very specific about its effects. It didn't cast heat, but it did something far stranger. It erased shadows. Think about that for a moment. Everywhere this crawling sun went, the world became a flat, shadowless landscape. The natural play of light and dark that gives our world depth and texture, gone. A tree wouldn't have a shadow. A mountain would cast no shade. A person standing in its presence would appear completely, unnervingly flat. This is where the story takes a truly horrifying turn. The text speaks of people who encountered it. They weren't burned or blinded. Instead, something was taken from them. They lost their depth. The manuscript uses chillingly simple words to describe this transformation. They became flat and wrong. It's hard to even picture what that means. Were they physically compressed into two dimensions? Or was it something more profound? A metaphysical flattening of their very existence? Picture a bustling ancient city. The crawling sun appears at the horizon, a silent, gliding orb of light. As it enters the city gates, panic doesn't erupt in fire and screams, but in a quiet, creeping dread. People stop and stare as the world around them loses its shadows. The familiar corners of their homes, the alleyways they've known their whole lives, suddenly look alien and wrong. Then they look at each other. A friend, a family member, standing there, but not really there. Their form is visible, but they have no roundness, no presence. They look like a drawing, a paper cutout crudely pasted onto the world. The text describes them as being wrong. This suggests it wasn't just a visual change. It was a fundamental violation of reality. These people were no longer truly people. They were echoes, images stripped of their substance. Could they still speak? Could they think? The text offers no comfort, no answers. It only paints this picture of a world where depth, both physical and perhaps even spiritual, has been erased by this silent, crawling light. What was this thing? A rogue star? A supernatural entity? A piece of forgotten, otherworldly technology? The text doesn't classify it. It just calls it the sun that fell. It lacks the reverence usually associated with celestial bodies. It's not a god to be worshipped, but a phenomenon to be feared, an aberration that unmade the world as it was known. Let's think about the physics of it. Our entire perception of the world relies on shadows. Shadows tell us an object is solid. They define its shape, its distance, its relationship to other objects. Without shadows, everything would blend together into a confusing, two-dimensional mess. Our brains wouldn't be able to process it. It would be a kind of sensory deprivation that would likely drive a person to madness. Maybe that's what flat and wrong really meant. Not a physical change, but a perceptual one. The people weren't flattened. Their ability to perceive depth was destroyed. They saw themselves and the world as a flat plane, a terrifying, incomprehensible landscape. They were trapped in a world they could no longer understand. Their minds broken by the shadowless light of the crawling sun. This interpretation is, in its own way, even more terrifying. A physical transformation is one thing, but to have your very perception of reality shattered is another level of horror entirely. The narrative itself is just a fragment. The story builds this incredible tension, this picture of an unstoppable reality warping force, and then it just stops. The final lines of the text are described as being smeared. The ink is blurred and spread across the parchment, as if something heavy and flat was pressed down on the page while the ink was still wet. This ending is what makes the story so powerful. It leaves us with so many chilling questions. What happened to the scribe writing this account? Did the crawling sun find them? Is that smear on the page the final physical evidence of their own transformation? A last, desperate attempt to record the truth before they too became flat and wrong, their own body pressing down on their work, silencing the story forever. It's a meta-narrative that breaks the fourth wall of ancient history. The horror described in the text literally bleeds out onto the page itself. The medium becomes part of the message. The smeared ink is not just a damaged part of the manuscript. It's the climax of the story. It's the monster's signature. This story feels different from typical myths. It's not about heroic deeds or the whims of petty gods. It feels more modern, like something out of a cosmic horror novel. It speaks to a fear of the unknown, of forces that don't just want to destroy us, but to unmake us, to erase the very rules of our existence. The crawling sun isn't a malevolent entity with a goal we can understand. It's a mindless, cosmic event, and that makes it infinitely more frightening. There's no moral here, no lesson to be learned. There's just the raw, unsettling image of a silent light that crawls on the ground, erasing the shadows and leaving flat, wrong things in its wake. It's a story that reminds us that in the vast, ancient history of the world, there might be tales of things far stranger and more terrifying than we can ever imagine. Stories that were silenced for a reason. What do you think the crawling sun was? An alien probe? A natural phenomenon we don't understand? Or something else entirely? Let me know your theories down in the comments. I'd love to read what you all come up with. Thanks for joining me on this dive into the strange and forgotten corners of history. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the edge of reality. Until next time, stay curious.